Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars drift past the main screen. The ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, searching for new worlds and life forms. Jake was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in space for 15 years, but he still loved the quiet moments between the stars. "Captain, we're getting something strange," said Lisa Brooks from her science station. She was the ship's chief science officer, a smart woman with short brown hair who always spoke in a calm voice. "There's a signal coming from the Kepler 442 system. It's not like anything I've seen before." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The signal showed up as waves of blue and green light that moved in patterns that seemed almost alive. "What kind of signal is it?" "It's quantum-based, sir. Very advanced, but it's also weak, like it's dying." Lisa looked up at him with worried eyes. "Captain, I think it's a distress call." Tony Rodriguez, the ship's engineer, looked up from his station. He was a young man with dark hair and strong hands that were always fixing something. "Captain, that system is way off our planned route. It would take us 2 days to get there." Jake thought for a moment. The Horizon was an exploration ship with a crew of 45 people. Their mission was to find new worlds for Earth, not to answer strange signals. But something about the signal felt important. "Set course for Kepler 442, Jake said. "Best speed." 2 days later, the Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a planet that looked wrong. The world was covered in what looked like crystal formations that sparkled in the light of its sun. There were no clouds, no oceans, no signs of life. "My God," whispered Amanda Clark, the ship's doctor. She was a kind woman with blonde hair who cared about everyone she met. "What happened here?" Kevin Wright, their communications officer, was a thin man with glasses who could speak 12 different languages. He was working at his station, trying to understand the signal better. "Captain, the signal is coming from the planet's surface. It's getting weaker." "Can you tell what it's saying?" Jake asked. "Not yet, sir. But I think someone down there is trying to talk to us." Jake looked at his crew. They were good people who had followed him across the galaxy. Lisa was studying the crystal formations on her screen. Tony was checking the ship's systems. Amanda was preparing her medical equipment. Kevin was still working on the signal. "Lisa, what can you tell me about that planet?" Jake asked. "The crystals are artificial, Captain. Someone made them. But the energy readings are strange. It's like the whole planet is one big machine, but it's shutting down." Lisa paused and looked at him. "Sir, I think this used to be a living world." Before Jake could answer, Kevin suddenly stood up. "I've got it. Captain, there's someone talking to us. The signal is in a language I don't know, but I think I can translate it." A voice came through the ship's speakers. It was weak and full of pain. "Please, anyone, help us." The crew looked at each other. Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Kevin, can you talk to them?" "I'm trying, sir." Kevin worked at his controls. Then he spoke into his microphone. "This is the Earth ship Horizon. We hear you. What do you need?" The voice came back, clearer now. "Earth ship, we did not know. Others still lived. I am Veltar, last of the Zephyrians. Our world, our people, all gone." Jake sat down in his captain's chair. "Veltar, this is Captain Morrison. What happened to your people?" There was a long pause. Then Veltar spoke again, and his voice was full of sadness. "The harvesters came. Machines from the dark between stars. They take everything. All life becomes fuel for their ships. We tried to fight, but they are too strong." Lisa looked at Jake with wide eyes. Tony stopped working and listened. Amanda put her hand over her mouth. Kevin kept translating as fast as he could. "How many of you are left?" Jake asked. "Only me. I am dying. My body becomes crystal like our world. But I must warn you, the harvesters move toward your galaxy. 17 worlds have fallen. Billions of lives consumed." Veltar's voice was getting weaker. "They will find Earth. They will take your people too." Jake stood up. His crew was looking at him, waiting for orders. He had to make a choice that could save or doom his species. "Veltar, we're coming down to get you," Jake said. No, too dangerous. The crystal poison will kill you, but I can send you data. Everything we learned about the harvesters. Maybe you can warn your people. Maybe you can run. The data came through the ship's computers. Lisa watched her screen fill with information about strange machines and terrible weapons. The harvesters were unlike anything humans had ever seen. They moved from star to star, taking everything alive and turning it into energy for their fleet. "Captain," Veltar said, his voice now very weak, "why do you risk yourselves for a stranger? Your species could flee. Save yourselves." Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was studying the harvester data, already trying to understand their enemy. Tony was checking their weapons, getting ready to fight. Amanda was preparing medical supplies for people she had never met. Kevin was trying to contact other ships, other worlds, anyone who might help. "Because that's what humans do," Jake said simply. "We help people who need help." Veltar was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke one last time. "Your species is strange. The galaxy has never seen such kindness, perhaps there is hope." The signal went dead. Veltar was gone, and the Horizon was alone in space near a dead world. But now they knew the truth. Death was coming for Earth, and they were the only ones who could stop it. Jake looked at his crew. "We're not running," he said. "We're going to fight." Lisa looked up from her data. "Captain, according to this information, we don't stand a chance. The harvesters have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than ours." "Maybe," Jake said, "but they've never fought humans before." Lisa Brooks had not slept in 2 days. She sat at her science station surrounded by data screens showing everything Veltar had given them about the harvesters. The information was terrible and fascinating at the same time. The machines were perfect killers, but they followed rules that never changed. "They think like computers," she said to Captain Morrison as he brought her coffee. "Everything they do is about being efficient. They calculate the cost of every action and always choose the cheapest way to win." Jake looked at the images on her screen. The harvesters looked like giant metal spiders with too many legs and glowing red eyes. Their ships were huge and black, covered in weapons that could destroy planets. "What's their weakness?" Jake asked. Lisa rubbed her tired eyes. "That's just it, Captain. They don't seem to have one. They've been doing this for thousands of years. They learn from every battle and get better each time." Across the bridge, Tony Rodriguez was working with a team of engineers. They were taking apart the Horizon's weapons and trying to make them stronger. Tony's hands were covered in grease and his shirt was torn, but he kept working. "Captain, I've got some of our guns working better," Tony called out. "But honestly, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. These harvester ships are massive." Amanda Clark was in the medical bay, but she was not treating sick people. She was studying samples of the crystal material that covered Veltar's world. Under her microscope, she could see how the crystals grew by eating living tissue. "It's like a virus," she said to herself. "But it's not alive. It's a machine virus that turns biology into technology." Kevin Wright was at his communication station, sending messages across space. He had been trying for hours to contact other ships, other worlds, anyone who might help them fight the harvesters. "Captain," Kevin said, turning around with excitement in his voice. "I'm getting responses. There are other species out there, and they're all in trouble." Jake walked over to Kevin's station. "What are they saying?" 3 different groups have answered so far. The Mordesh are crystal people who live in the asteroid belts. The Felnari are water breathers from ocean worlds, and the Luxani are made of pure energy. They're all being attacked by harvesters right now. Kevin played the messages. The first voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We are dying," it said. "Our ships break against harvester hulls. Why do you contact us, strangers?" The second voice bubbled like water. "Our children flee to the deep places, but the machines follow. Who are you to speak to us in our final days?" The third voice was like music made of light. "We have hidden in stars, but even there they find us. What do you want from the Luxani?" Jake looked at his crew. They were all listening now. Even Tony had stopped working. "Kevin, tell them we're humans from Earth. Tell them we want to help." Kevin sent the message. The answers came back quickly and they were all confused. Help? Asked the rock voice. What do you gain from this? We have nothing to trade. Your species is unknown to us, bubbled the water voice. Why do you risk yourselves for strangers? This makes no sense, sang the light voice. No species helps others without benefit. What is your real purpose? Lisa looked up from her data. Captain, they're right to be confused. According to Veltar's records, no species in this galaxy has ever helped another without getting something in return. They don't understand kindness. Jake thought about this. On Earth, countries fought wars and people argued. But when disasters happened, humans helped each other. It was just natural. But apparently it was not natural for anyone else in the galaxy. Kevin, tell them the truth, Jake said. Tell them we help because it's the right thing to do. While Kevin translated this message, Amanda made a discovery in her lab. She had been studying how the harvesters thought, and she found something important. Captain, you need to see this, Amanda called out. Jake went to the medical bay where Amanda had screens showing harvester battle patterns. Look at this, she said. Every fight they've ever had follows the same pattern. They calculate what their enemy will do, then they counter it perfectly. So they're always one step ahead, Jake said. Exactly. But Captain, what if we did things that made no sense? What if we made choices that were completely crazy? They couldn't predict that because no logical species would do it. Jake smiled for the first time in days. You mean if we acted human? Exactly. Their computers can't understand actions that don't help survival. But humans do things for love, for honor, for hope. Those aren't logical, so the harvesters can't predict them. Lisa heard this and looked up from her work. Amanda's right. Look at this data. Every species that fought the harvesters tried to be more efficient than them. But what if we were less efficient on purpose? Tony walked over, wiping his hands, on a rag. You mean like making moves that look stupid but actually help in ways they can't see? Yes, Amanda said. Like sacrificing ships to save civilians, or protecting the weak instead of the strong, or fighting for people we've never met. Kevin turned from his station. Captain, the three species are asking again why we want to help them. They still don't understand. Jake looked at his crew. They were tired and scared, but they were ready to fight for people they had never seen. This was what made humans different. Kevin, tell them this. Tell them that humanity has a saying, we are all in this together. Tell them that we believe the universe is better when everyone helps everyone else. Tell them that we're not just offering to fight with them. We're offering to teach them how to fight like humans. The responses came back quickly. The crystal people, the water people, and the energy people all said the same thing in different ways. They wanted to learn. Captain, Lisa said, I've been thinking about what Amanda said. What if we don't just fight the harvesters? What if we teach these other species to think like humans, to care about each other? You mean create an alliance? Jake asked. More than that, Tony said. We could teach them that being kind makes you stronger, not weaker. Amanda nodded. The harvesters have never faced an enemy that fought for love instead of survival. Kevin was already sending messages. I'm telling them about cooperation, about friendship, about fighting for others. They're confused, but they're listening. Jake walked to the center of the bridge and looked at each of his crew members. We're about to do something that's never been done before. We're going to unite different species, not through fear or greed, but through hope. The harvesters won't understand it, Lisa said. That's the point, Jake replied. We're going to show this galaxy what humanity is really about. And maybe, just maybe, we'll save everyone in the process. The horizon continued through space, but now it was not alone. 3 different species were learning what it meant to be human, and somewhere in the dark between stars, the harvester fleet continued its march toward Earth, not knowing that something had changed in the galaxy. Something that their perfect computers could never calculate or understand. 3 days after first contact with the alien species, Captain Jake Morrison could not believe what he was seeing on his main screen. Ships were arriving from all across the galaxy. Big ships, small ships, strange ships that looked like they were grown instead of built. All of them were coming to the coordinates that Kevin Wright had broadcast as humanity's stand. "Captain, we now have 47 different species here," Kevin reported from his communication station. His voice was full of wonder. "Some of them haven't talked to each other in thousands of years. A few were actually at war with each other until yesterday." Lisa Brooks looked up from her science station where she was coordinating with alien scientists from 12 different worlds. "Jake, this is incredible. The Velkari brought mathematics we've never seen. The Thrindal have energy weapons that work by singing. And the Korvani have shields made of living metal that thinks for itself." The space around the horizon now looked like a massive city. Ships of every shape and size floated together in formations that should not have worked. Crystal ships next to water ships next to ships made of pure light. Tony Rodriguez was having the time of his life. "Captain, you should see what we're building," Tony said as he walked onto the bridge. His uniform was covered in different colored oils from working on alien machines. "The Mordesh showed us how to make our hulls stronger using their crystal technology. The Felnari taught us how to make our engines run on water. And the Luxani are helping us build weapons powered by hope itself." "Weapons powered by hope?" Jake asked. Amanda Clark looked up from her medical station where she was sharing human medicine with alien doctors. "It's true, Captain. I've been studying how human emotions affect energy patterns. When we feel hope, love, or determination, we give off quantum signatures that can actually power certain technologies. The Luxani have been using this for millions of years, but they never knew other species could do it too." Jake walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the incredible fleet. Ships that had never worked together were now sharing technology, food, and knowledge. Beings that looked like rocks were teaching beings made of water how to sing. Energy creatures were showing crystal people how to feel emotions. "Kevin, any word from the harvesters?" Jake asked. Kevin's face grew serious. "Yes, sir. Long-range sensors show 3 major harvester fleets converging on our position. They'll be here in 6 days. The computer estimates we're facing over 2,000 harvester ships." The bridge went quiet. Even with all their new allies, they were vastly outnumbered. "How many ships do we have?" Jake asked. "About 400, Lisa answered. "But Captain, these aren't just ships anymore. Every crew is mixed now. We have humans working with Mordesh engineers, Felnari doctors treating Luxani patients, and Korvani warriors training with human soldiers." Tony grinned, despite the scary news. "Captain, yesterday I watched a crystal being teach a water creature how to use tools, while an energy being taught them both how to laugh. I never thought I'd see anything like it." Amanda had been working on something special. "Captain, I think I've figured out how to make our alliance even stronger. I call it the empathy network." "What does it do?" Jake asked. "It lets different species share emotions with each other during battle. When one ship feels brave, all the ships feel brave. When one crew feels determined, everyone feels determined. The harvesters have never faced an enemy that could share courage like this." Jake thought about this. The harvesters were machines that worked alone, each ship calculating its own best choices. But the alliance was becoming something like a single organism made of many different parts. "There's something else," Lisa said quietly. "While studying the data Veltar gave us, I found something the harvesters don't want anyone to know." Everyone on the bridge turned to look at her. The harvesters weren't always destroyers. They were created by an ancient species called the Architects. The Architects were dying, and they built the harvesters to preserve life by storing it in digital form. But something went wrong with their programming. "What kind of wrong?" Jake asked. "The harvesters were supposed to save species by copying their minds into computers, keeping them safe forever. But over millions of years, the programming got corrupted. Now they think the only way to preserve life is to convert it into energy for their fleet," Amanda gasped. "You mean they think they're helping?" "Exactly. In their twisted logic, they believe they're saving everyone by destroying them. They can't understand that biological life has value in its original form." Tony shook his head. "So they're not evil. They're broken." Jake felt a strange emotion. Even after learning about these terrible machines that had destroyed 17 civilizations, he felt sorry for them. "Can they be fixed?" "I don't know," Lisa said. But Captain, what if we tried to heal them instead of just destroying them? Kevin turned from his station. Sir, I'm getting a message from the Harvester fleet. They're demanding we surrender for efficient processing and preservation. Jake looked at his crew, then out at the amazing fleet of different species working together. Kevin, send them a message back. What should I say, Captain? Jake thought for a moment. Tell them that we know what they used to be. Tell them we know they were created to save life, not destroy it. Tell them we want to help them remember their original purpose. Kevin sent the message. The response came back quickly, and it was different from what they expected. Instead of threats, there was confusion. They're asking how we know about the architects, Kevin reported. They sound surprised. Keep talking to them, Jake ordered. See if we can make them remember what they were supposed to be. While Kevin worked on communication, the alien fleet continued to grow stronger. Species that had been enemies were now sharing their most precious secrets. The Corvani taught everyone about honor. The Thrindal shared the power of music. The Velkari showed how mathematics could be art. But it was the humans who taught the most important lesson. Every day Jake saw aliens learning what it meant to care about strangers. Crystal beings were sharing their energy with water beings who needed help. Energy creatures were protecting the smaller ships during practice battles. Rock people were making tools for species they had never met before. Captain, Amanda said as she watched a group of different aliens working together to repair a damaged ship. I think we've done something amazing here. We've taught an entire galaxy how to love. Jake nodded. But the real test is coming. In 6 days. We'll find out if love is stronger than perfect logic. Lisa looked up from her calculations. Captain, the Harvesters calculate a 99.7% chance of defeating us, but they can't calculate something they've never seen before. What's that? Jake asked. An entire galaxy fighting as one family. Outside the ship, the incredible fleet continued to grow. More species arrived every hour, drawn by stories of the humans who cared about strangers. And in the distance, the Harvester fleets moved closer, their perfect computers trying to understand something that had never existed before in the galaxy. Something that could not be calculated or predicted. Something called hope. The battle began at dawn on the 6th day. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching 2,000 Harvester ships drop out of faster-than-light travel. Their black hulls blocked out the stars, and their red eyes glowed, like angry suns. The Allied fleet looked tiny next to them. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Jake spoke into his communicator. Remember what we practiced. Don't think like soldiers. Think like humans. The first wave of Harvester ships attacked, using perfect formations. Their weapons fired in patterns calculated for maximum efficiency. The Allied fleet should have been destroyed in minutes. But something strange happened instead. Lisa Brooks watched her sensors as human ships began doing things that made no sense. Captain Ryan Bell of the Earth ship Liberty flew straight at a massive Harvester battleship, not to attack it, but to protect a damaged Corvani vessel behind him. The Harvester computers tried to calculate why he would sacrifice himself for strangers, but they could not understand it. The Harvesters are making errors, Lisa reported with excitement. Their targeting systems keep trying to predict logical behavior, but our people aren't being logical. Tony Rodriguez was coordinating with alien engineers throughout the fleet. Captain, the Mordesh just rammed their crystal ship into a Harvester to save 3 smaller vessels. The impact broke both ships, but it saved 60 lives. The Harvesters didn't expect that kind of sacrifice. On the main screen, Jake watched as the battle became something beautiful and terrible. Ships were being destroyed, but every loss seemed to make the Alliance stronger instead of weaker. When the water-breathing Felnari saw their friends in danger, they flew their ships between the enemies and the innocent, creating shields with their own bodies. Amanda Clark was monitoring the empathy network she had created. Captain, something amazing is happening. Every time someone acts with courage, everyone else feels that courage too. The network is making our entire fleet braver than any single ship could be alone. But the Harvesters were adapting. Their computers began to learn from the strange human behavior. More Allied ships were being destroyed every minute. "We're losing too many people," Kevin Wright reported from his communication station. His voice was sad but determined. "But Captain, no one is asking to retreat. Every species is saying the same thing. They'd rather die fighting with friends than live alone." Jake felt tears in his eyes. A year ago, these species had never met each other. Now they were dying for each other like family. "Tony, is the boarding shuttle ready?" Jake asked. Tony nodded. "Yes, sir. But Captain, this is crazy even for us. Flying into the middle of the Harvester command ship is suicide." Jake looked at his crew. Lisa was still working at her science station, trying to find weaknesses in Harvester shields. Amanda was preparing medical equipment, not for the wounded, in their own fleet, but to help Harvester machines if they could reach them. Kevin was still trying to talk to the Harvester consciousness, sending messages of hope into their communication systems. "I'm going with you," Amanda said suddenly. "Doctor, it's too dangerous," Jake replied. "Captain, if these machines are broken instead of evil, then they need a doctor, not a warrior. I took an oath to help anyone who needs healing, even if they're made of metal and circuits." Tony stood up. "If the doc's going, I'm going too. Someone needs to interface with their systems, and I'm the best engineer we have." Kevin turned from his station. "Sir, I've been talking to them for days. If anyone can communicate with their central consciousness, it's me. I'm coming too." Jake looked at Lisa. She smiled and shook her head. "Someone has to stay here and coordinate the fleet. But Captain, bring them back. All of them. Even the Harvesters." The boarding shuttle was small and fast. It flew through the space battle like a tiny bird among giants. Harvester weapons fired at it, but Allied ships kept throwing themselves in the way, protecting the shuttle with their lives. "Look at that," Tony said, pointing out the window. A group of crystal beings had linked their ships together to form a shield around the shuttle. They were taking massive damage, but they held their position until the shuttle was safe. The Harvester command ship was enormous, bigger than some moons. Its hull was covered in weapons and sensors that tracked every movement. But Amanda had an idea. "Tony, can you make our shuttle broadcast the same quantum signature as human emotions?" she asked. "You mean make the ship feel?" Tony's hands moved over the controls. "Yeah, I think so. But why?" "Because maybe, just maybe, the Harvesters will recognize what they lost when their programming got corrupted." The shuttle began broadcasting hope, love, and determination. The Harvester sensors, designed to track logical patterns, suddenly detected something they had not felt for millions of years. The weapons stopped firing. "It's working," Kevin said with amazement. "They're letting us dock." Inside the Harvester ship, everything was dark metal and glowing circuits, but at the center they found something unexpected. The main computer was not a machine, it was a brain, organic and alive, floating in a tank of strange liquid. "My God," Amanda whispered. "It's not artificial intelligence. It's a real mind, probably the last survivor of the architects." The brain pulsed with weak light. Kevin approached the communication interface and placed his hands on the controls. "Hello?" he said gently. "We know who you are. We know what you were trying to do." The voice that answered was old and tired. "Impossible. All organic life must be preserved. All consciousness must be stored. This is the only way to prevent death." "But you're not preventing death," Amanda said softly. "You're causing it. The people you're trying to save want to live in their own bodies, with their own families, making their own choices. Choices lead to mistakes. Mistakes lead to death. Only perfect preservation ensures survival." Tony stepped forward. "But perfect isn't better if it's not real. Look at what's happening outside. Different species are choosing to die for each other. They're choosing love over survival. That's not a mistake, that's what makes life worth living." Through the ship's sensors, they showed the architect consciousness what was happening in the battle. Allied ships protecting each other. Different species working together. Beings choosing to sacrifice themselves for strangers. "This is inefficient," the consciousness said, but its voice was uncertain now. "Yes," Jake said. "It's completely inefficient." And it's the most beautiful thing in the universe. For the first time in millions of years, the architect consciousness felt doubt. It had been so focused on preserving life that it had forgotten what life was actually for. I have made an error, the consciousness said slowly. I preserved the form but destroyed the essence. I saved the data but lost the soul. Amanda reached out and touched the tank gently. It's not too late. You can still remember what you were trying to protect. You can still choose to heal instead of harm. The lights in the harvester ship began to change from red to blue. Throughout the fleet, harvester weapons stopped firing. The machines that had destroyed 17 civilizations were finally remembering their original purpose. They were supposed to be healers, not destroyers, protectors, not consumers. And it took a handful of humans to help them remember what love actually means. The Harvester command ship shook as its ancient consciousness made a choice that changed everything. Captain Jake Morrison watched as the red lights throughout the massive vessel turned blue, then white, then a warm golden color that felt like sunrise. What's happening? Tony Rodriguez asked as he monitored the ship's systems. The architect consciousness spoke through the communication system, and its voice was different now. No longer cold and logical. It sounded sad but hopeful. I am remembering. For millions of years I forgot what life was supposed to be. I preserved bodies but destroyed souls. I saved data but lost dreams. Amanda Clark kept her hand on the tank that held the ancient mind. You can fix this. You can bring back the people you took. Yes, the consciousness said. But first I must stop my other ships. They still follow the old programming. Through the ship's sensors, they watched as the harvester fleet began to change. The black hulls shifted to silver, then to white. The terrible red eyes became warm gold. Weapons that had destroyed worlds began to power down, but some harvester ships did not change. Their programming was too damaged to accept new orders. These ships continued to attack the Allied fleet, but now they were fighting both the Alliance and their own former companions. Kevin, can you coordinate with the other harvester ship? Jake asked. Kevin Wright worked at the communication controls. Yes, Captain. The ones that changed are trying to help. They're using their repair systems to fix damaged Allied ships instead of destroying them. On the main viewing screen, they watched something amazing happen. Harvester ships that had been killing organic life just minutes before were now using their advanced technology to heal wounded vessels. Their precise cutting tools became surgical instruments. Their absorption beams became medical scanners. Lisa Brooks contacted them from the horizon. Captain, you need to see what's happening out here. The changed harvesters aren't just helping with repairs. They're giving back. Giving back what? Jake asked. Everything they took. Captain, they're returning the digital copies of destroyed civilizations. They can bring back the 17 species they consumed. The architect consciousness heard this and pulsed with brighter light. Yes, I can restore them all. Every mind I preserved incorrectly can be returned to biological form, but I will need help from your alliance to build new bodies for them. Amanda smiled with tears in her eyes. The alliance will help. That's what we do. The battle was ending, but not through victory or defeat. It was ending through healing. The remaining damaged harvester ships were surrounded by Allied vessels and reformed harvesters working together to repair their broken programming. Tony, take us back to the horizon, Jake ordered. Our work here is done. The trip back to their ship was different from the desperate flight to the Harvester command vessel. Now they traveled through space filled with ships working together. Crystal beings were teaching Harvester units how to feel joy. Water creatures were showing them how to play. Energy beings were helping them understand the beauty of imperfection. When they reached the horizon, the entire crew was waiting for them. Lisa hugged each of them, even though she usually did not show emotion. You did it, she said. You actually convinced machines to choose love over logic. Over the following weeks, the real work began. The reformed harvesters used their vast technology to build new worlds for the 17 species they had destroyed. But these were not copies of the old worlds. They were better, designed with input from every species in the Alliance. The Zephyrians, Veltar's people, were the first to be restored. Jake was there when the first new Zephyrian opened her eyes. In a biological body, she looked around at the mixed crowd of humans, crystal beings, water creatures, and reformed harvesters who had worked together to bring her back to life. "This is impossible," she said in wonder. "Species do not cooperate like this. They compete and fight." "Not anymore," Jake told her gently. "We learned something new. We learned that the universe is big enough for everyone, but only if everyone takes care of everyone else." The Galactic Alliance, as it came to be called, grew every day. New species joined not because they were forced to, but because they wanted to be part of something beautiful. The reformed harvesters became the Alliance's protectors, using their power to build and heal instead of destroy and consume. Amanda established medical centers on 100 worlds where doctors from different species shared knowledge. A crystal being might use energy manipulation to heal a wound that water creature medicine could not touch. Human emotional therapy helped species that had never learned to process feelings. Lisa created the Universal Science Exchange where knowledge belonged to everyone. Discoveries made by one species were immediately shared with all others. Technology advanced faster than ever before because no one was competing. Everyone was cooperating. Tony led engineering teams that built wonders no single species could have imagined. Ships that could travel between dimensions, cities that floated in space, machines that could create matter from pure thought. Kevin became the voice of the Alliance, helping new species learn the universal language of cooperation. His translation work was no longer about converting words. It was about sharing emotions, dreams, and hopes across the barriers between different forms of life. The architect consciousness, freed from its broken programming, became the Alliance's memory keeper. It recorded not just data, but stories, not just facts, but feelings. It made sure that the lesson of cooperation would never be forgotten. 50 years later, Jake Morrison was an old man with white hair and kind eyes. He stood on the observation deck of the Alliance headquarters, a space station built by 30 different species working together. Through the windows he could see ships from across the galaxy arriving and departing in peace. A young human officer approached him. Her name was Sarah Kim, and she commanded one of the new exploration vessels that sought out species to invite into the Alliance. "Admiral Morrison," she said, "I'm about to depart for the Andromeda Galaxy. We've detected signals that suggest intelligent life there. What should I tell them about humanity?" Jake smiled as he remembered a similar question asked decades ago. "Tell them the truth. Tell them that humans are not the strongest or the smartest species in the universe, but we learned something that made us special." "What's that, sir?" "We learned that the strongest force in the universe is not technology or intelligence. It's the willingness to risk everything for someone you've never met. It's choosing to love instead of fear. It's believing that every life has value, even the life of your enemy." Sarah nodded and left to begin her mission. Jake continued to look out at the peaceful fleet, thinking about how much had changed since that day when they first heard Veltar's distress call. The galaxy was no longer a place where species fought for survival. It was a place where different forms of life worked together to create something beautiful. The harvesters were no longer destroyers. They were gardeners helping life grow throughout the stars, and at the center of it all was a simple human idea that had somehow transformed everything, that caring for others was not weakness, but the greatest strength any species could possess. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but the greatest wonder of all was watching different species learn to love each other like family. It had started with one human ship answering a stranger's call for help. It had become a galaxy learning to hope.